Coming up, lockdown mania affects the NRL. Conrad Hurrell gets KO'd on his boxing debut, and New South Wales win the Origin series against a bunch of boys. Yes, hello, and welcome to the Sideline Chat podcast, our one-stop shop for rugby league. Along with Mark Henry, I am Connor Marcellus, and today we bring you your State of Origin Game 2 debrief, as well as your NRL 16 previews. And we'll start off with the centerpiece from the weekend, State of Origin Game 2.
And weren't New South Wales very, very happy fans? And we wrapped up the series with a game to spare, which is fantastic news. And the first time they held Queensland scoreless in Origin history at Suncorp Stadium.
In the NRL era, which is even more impressive considering how good the NRL era Queensland sides have been.
Well, yes, very much so. And Queensland's now washed in blue because the Blues have won both matches in Queensland. Of course, the first one being in Townsville. But overall, so far the two games, the Blues have won 76-6 across the two matches so far.
More than 2 hours of football played, and Queensland only managed to produce one try.
That's unheard of for Queensland.
It certainly isn't.
But where to now, though?
Where to now? Well, my first thought would have been sack the coach, but the QRL, I should say, have obviously given their confidence to Paul Green. I mean, it was always going to be a tough assignment coming in. So I think they've given him one more year, and then after that, I don't know where they go from there.
Well, yeah, I was thinking maybe another coach, like a third coach in 2 years or whatever. They've gone through a few coaches over the last 5 years or so.
Well, since the retirement of Mal Meninga from the Origin arena, in the head coaching capacity, I should say, you've had Kevin Walters from 2016 up until 2019. Then he got replaced by Wayne Bennett just for 2020.
Yeah. And
now from 2021 until next year, you'll have Paul Green.
So they've gone through a few coaches. It feels like a lot more than that, but 3 still bad. Like the Blues have had Laurie Daly and then straight into Brad Fittler. There's been no...
We've gone from Laurie Daly in 2013 to 17, and we've had Brad Fittler since 2018. But unlike Daly, Freddie's actually had success, including 3 Origin wins in 4 years.
Compared to Daly, who only had...
One in about 4.
Yes.
Maybe 5.
So you can tell that Freddie... Well, nothing against Laurie Daly, but I suppose when Laurie Daly was coaching the Blues, there was more older players in the side, and then now you got all these young hotshot...
Well, not necessarily hot shots, but...
all these young players
blokes that Freddie has put his confidence into. So your Tom Trebojevich's, your Nathan Cleary's, returning the faith in Latrell Mitchell. How good was he on Game 2?
And Game 1, but we already mentioned that, but yes.
So, and I think to a lesser extent that he's found the winning halves combination.
Yeah.
That it could be settled for the next 10 years.
Yeah. I think that whole team is 10 years. Pretty much. Barring 1 or 2 players.
Here and there.
But it was just a magnificent game for the Blues fans and very unfortunate for Queensland.
The Blues right edge really took it to the Maroons. Now, this is a left edge we're talking with Cameron Munster, and they actually went with Jai Arrow to start.
Yes, they did, compared to Game 1.
Yeah, it was sort of a... How would you describe that move to have Fafita come off the bench?
I would have personally kept Fafita starting and Jai Arrow as coming off the bench, but they decided that maybe they changed it up a little bit and might have helped their cause, but ultimately it didn't.
And it didn't help having Xavier Coates come in on the left edge at the 11th hour.
Yes.
We'll get more on to the drama behind Coates' shock entrance. But Queensland's left edge just did not stand up to task.
Well, no, not at all. And Cameron Munster had a very, very quiet night.
You know what? For all the talk, Billy Slater, I think maybe Jonathan Thurston, Wally Lewis, as I think, from the Origin coverage that we did see before kickoff, they were honestly talking as if Cameron Munster was going to do something like Wally Lewis or Darren Lockyer to try and steal a victory from the jaws of death at full time and then force a series decider for game 3.
Which is generally what has happened in the past.
But what I did see of Cameron Munster, I didn't see anything.
No, he had a very, very quiet
It was
night.
Cherry Evans who was leading Queensland around the park and failing to fire.
Yes. Although Queensland came so close so many times.
But the blue wall of defence
not only that,
in
the
the second
bunker
half
helped as well.
Oh yeah, the handling errors certainly did help, but that blue wall of defence, there was real hunger in the Blues side.
Yeah.
I mean, they had already run up massive score lines in both games 1 and 2. They were thinking, all right, now we've got to try and keep that in defence. And keep that in defence in game 2, they did.
Yes, they definitely did, and it paid off. And keeping them scoreless at Suncorp is unbelievable and very, very
It's
rare to
rewriting
see.
the history books.
It is. Pretty much the whole series is rewriting history books.
Biggest winning margin for New South Wales, I think, in Origin history, maybe even the highest margin of all time.
For the series.
Brad Fittler records his first win as a head coach at Suncorp Stadium.
True.
So, there's that. First time that Queensland have been held to 0 at Suncorp Stadium. And of course, there have been other examples where Queensland have been held to 0, but
But not at Suncorp.
I think before it was called Suncorp. I think Lang Park in the 90s, I think that was the case before the rebuild.
Yeah.
But the first time at Suncorp Stadium,
It's just so nice to have the winning feeling for the state team. Obviously, we're both New South Welshmen, so we support the Blues, but it was so good to have that victory.
It was. But with the good, there came the bad and the ugly.
And who are you referring to by that?
Well, I'm not saying bad because it's not his fault per se, but he was caught in the crossfire with what happened. I am, of course, referring to Ronaldo Mulitalo.
At the 11th hour on game day.
On game day, the New South Wales Rugby League launched a challenge, citing that Mulitalo is, technically speaking, not eligible to play for Queensland, and they have to step him down.
And bringing in Xavier Coates on game day, who wasn't even in the Queensland squad.
No, he was training with the Broncos, I think, on Sunday, and then he was told, Xavier, you got to play for Queensland tonight.
Well, luckily he doesn't live too far away. Otherwise, it could have been a lot
very
worse
lucky circumstances.
So
to
that
that.
was very, very lucky. Otherwise, what would have happened? If Mulitalo couldn't play and Xavier Coates was somewhere else, what would have happened?
Well, I don't know. I honestly don't know what would have happened.
Might have had to call another Broncos player to make his Origin debut if they were eligible.
Which one are you referring to?
I was thinking of first name that came to my head, David Mead.
He's PNG representative.
Well, that's just the first name, but yeah, you could have had Phyllis Sami. He's played.
Yeah.
I think he's played Origin before. No, he hasn't played Origin.
No, last year's series. I'm pretty sure Sami was in last year's series.
Yeah, so they could have called him in.
But other than
If
that...
Coates couldn't play, of course.
Now, of course, there's been whole blow-up. I mean, you had Jonathan Thurston having a bit of a sook in the fallout after that, saying that you robbed the kid of his debut for Queensland. Well, hang on, JT. I will put this to you. This is the case right here with the NRL's own State of Origin eligibility guide. And let's just have a look at what this guide says. First question you are asked. Were you born in New South Wales or Queensland? If that answer is no, have you resided in New South Wales or Queensland prior to your 13th birthday? If that is no, and your father didn't play State of Origin, you're not eligible. But for some reason or another, he A, played in the Queensland's junior ranks after he arrived in Australia on his 14th birthday, as the media stories go, that he did arrive in Australia after his 13th birthday.
Yes.
Born in New Zealand.
Yes.
And so, for some reason, to this second question, this went apparently yes, and then his first two contracts he signed, he explicitly mentions Queensland.
Yes.
And for playing rugby league for the majority of the years from the under-6s to the under-18s. Both his 2015 and his 2017 contracts were both mentioned.
So you're telling fibs, you could say.
Well, he's telling porkies, because of course he not that I'm accusing JT of any wrongdoing, but how can he defend the QRL's decision to play Ronaldo Mulitalo when by the NRL's eligibility guide, he should not be playing State of Origin?
Yeah, exactly. And like we said, he played under 16s, under 18s, and under 20s for Queensland. And then comes to the main Origin arena and got denied.
Which, even by the NRL's own eligibility chart, they say he is eligible, but he's not eligible.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make sense, because one, arrived after his 13th birthday, but for some reason he played under 18s and under 16s, etc. for Queensland, so somehow he's eligible, but he's not. Just
yeah, there needs a bit of clarification on that, and I think the NRL will be looking into this a lot clearer.
For JT to be there and to try and paint the New South Wales Rugby League as the villain in all this. No, hang on, sir. Hang on indeed, because New South Wales Rugby League were raising a legitimate question. This question turned out and exposed your state's governing body for attempting to play a player who is not eligible for Origin. So hang on, who are the cheats again here? Who are the villains in this matter?
Well, exactly, Queensland.
They are the villains.
And if Queensland won the game, there could have been a lot more heated
that result,
discussions.
if Queensland had actually won that and Mulitalo had played, there would have been legitimate grounds to have that game forfeit.
Yeah.
And of course, New South Wales could have claimed the series 2-0 in Game 3, and then we'll get more onto that in a moment. But how can Thurston sit there with a straight face on the Sunday Footy Show or on the Today Show and honestly say that Queensland have been cheated when they tried to cheat in the first place?
Well, he's a Queenslander. Of course he's going to be on their side and say that they're the villain.
Now, is it devastating that Ronaldo Mulitalo didn't get to play? Well, yes. Yes,
especially
he was on this idea that he was going to be named to play for the Maroons last Sunday, only to be told that the eligibility has kicked back in, and then he's been told not to play, and it probably doesn't help at the same time that Michael Maguire is trying to sound him out for New Zealand.
Yeah.
Not to mention the fact, and I know this is all the tier ranking systems with the IRL, that he's already played for Tier 2 nations with the US and Toa Samoa in the past.
Yeah. So he's also, like you said, Michael Maguire's trying to get him to play for New Zealand. He's born in New Zealand, but he's a Samoan international.
Heritage rules. I think with the Tier 2 nations, you can get away with playing for a Tier 2 nation, but with Origin and a Tier 1 nation,
But even the eligibility, that's a bit confusing to understand, you could say. Well, for me, it is anyway. And with this Mulitalo incident with Queensland, they need to fix especially with the State of Origin, they need to clarify, have it more, more...
transparent.
Yes, and more understandable, and make it... may have harsher penalties if they are caught cheating the eligibility rules.
Because this just happens to follow up on the Jason Taumalolo Viliami kick-out questions.
Well, yeah.
That they want to play State of Origin as well. And just like, no, hang on. I mean, I know half the NRL is half of the population of the 500 top 30 players are all Pacific Islanders ranging from New Zealand to Tonga and Samoa and the like, but should we really be diluting both State of Origin and undermining the international game just so these blokes can get the $30,000 a match payments that comes with being an Origin representative?
Yeah, it needs to be a lot clearer, and NRL will be no doubt changing the not changing, but making
I don't
it
think
more
they should.
clearer.
For Origin, I don't think they should be making exceptions.
No, they won't be. But I think Mulitalo has come out and said the NRL bent the rules to Joseph Suarez play before his 18th birthday, but why could they bend the rules
that
for
is
him
true.
to play Queensland?
That is true. Well, it's true, but it's not the same context. Yes, it is true that the NRL did allow the Roosters to play Joseph Suwali before his 18th birthday, but that does not have an impact on the integrity. Oh no, I'm probably, if this really gets traction, I'm probably going to get pillared from sideline to sideline with this. But put it this way: is there a major series on the line if
Yes.
Joseph Suwali he plays? No, just with the Suwali thing, we're not asking Joseph Suwali to play Origin. The Roosters were wanting him to play because they were suffering a massive injury crisis, and he was the hottest talent on the market. And of course, they were going to go cite, oh, but Brad Fittler played before his 18th birthday. He was 17. I think Jordan Rankin was like 16 when he made his first grade debut.
But they changed that between then and now, between when Jordan Rankin and Brad Fittler played and when Joseph Suwali played.
Jordan Rankin, that was only about 15 or so years ago, so it's not that far. Well, it is far, but it's not as far as you think.
Yeah, but they have changed it since then.
Oh, yeah, of course they have.
And we're going a bit off topic, but especially nowadays with how, like, with all the concussions and
the speed
nowadays,
of the game, and then, of course, the crackdown you've got to factor in.
I can see why they changed it to 18.
Because it's all about the physical demand, and as well as the mental fitness, I would probably think, of handling the pressures being a first-grade player. It's sort of... But then you say the NRL, why don't you bend eligibility rules for Mulitalo? Well, now hang on, that's not the same thing, is it?
No, it's completely different.
It's different to bend the rules for someone who's just 1 year outside of being the legal minimum age to play in the NRL, and then trying to bend someone's nationality eligibility criteria so he can play in the interstate series that is one of the NRL's major draw cards.
Yeah.
It's completely different.
It is completely different.
I don't think you can actually make the argument why the NRL didn't allow Mulitalo to play, because I think it's just not the same.
Black and
it's
white.
not the same thing as allowing Joseph Suwali to play.
No, it's
in
not.
the NRL. It just isn't.
And the eligibility thing is written in black and white, clear as day. And he you could say he told fibs when he was signing the contracts.
Well, I think he believed he was eligible. I think that's getting back to it. I think because they said, if you have played under 16s, under 18s, under 20s for Queensland or for New South Wales, then you are eligible to play for that state where you played most of your junior rugby league.
Yes. But I think what came back to it was his birthday.
That the questions that he didn't arrive here before his 13th birthday. He arrived on his 14th, and he was born in New Zealand. And of course,
I don't think it was even his 14th.
You know what? Just for the fun of it, when we're done here, I'll stick in the link, the Dennis Carnahan That's in Queensland and videos, just for the fun of mocking the eligibility rules in the past and why this should not be allowed to happen again.
I don't think it was even his 14th birthday. I think he turned 13, then moved across like a couple months after he turned 13. I think that's how I understand it. But anyway, he wasn't allowed to play. I think they need to make they need to have a penalty in place if Queensland or New South Wales try and
bend the rules,
and try and forge the system a little bit. That's what I reckon needs to happen so this stops. I know it's only a one case scenario, but who says they can't do it again?
Or if it has happened in the past, but no one's brought it up until this has blown it up.
Exactly. So anything could have already happened, but no one's known about it.
Well, again, links for the Dennis Carnahan music videos of That's in Queensland will be in the description at the end of this.
Yeah. But it was just a magnificent...
All right. Outside of Mulitalo, final thoughts on Game 2.
Well, being a New South Welshman, it was so sweet. Come on. No, their back line yet again has just shown it. Well, even the whole side of the Blues, they're just showing that they're structured.
We are the embodiment of like the Olympic standards. We are faster. We are bigger. Faster, fitter, stronger. That's what I think we are.
Yeah, and I've read somewhere or heard somewhere saying that the Australian Kangaroos side could be the current New South Wales Blues side. It could be.
Well, we'll see how that pans out, and we'll touch more on Game 3. But that's a topic for another day, I would have to say.
Yes.
Now, changing gears, we're back in Clubland football, and oh boy, has there been a lot of action in the last week, has there not?
Well, yes, very much so. For circumstances we are not going to mention by its proper name.
But we will still mention it regardless.
Yes.
With Sydney in lockdown, with parts of Brisbane in lockdown,
Townsville in lockdown.
Townsville in lockdown, the Storm have now had to flee back to Victoria after fleeing from Victoria in the first place.
Yes, because they're originally going to stay in the Sunshine Coast for 12 days, end up being a few months. Now southeast.
It was round
Queensland.
10. Since Magic Round, the Storm have lived back in Queensland.
Yeah, and then now with southeast Queensland going in lockdown, they've had to go back down.
Would it be
Victoria.
advisable to flee to Victoria? Well, that's up to them. I mean, they see Victoria as being like the safe haven at the moment, that there's no lockdowns in Melbourne.
It is true. It is true.
I wouldn't hold your breath.
Well,
Anyway,
no.
apart from all the lockdowns and the border closures that have gone on, the NRL has reimposed level 4 biosecurity protocols as agreed by the Project Apollo Commission.
Yes. Meaning that games in Sydney, Wollongong, Western Sydney, so like Penrith, Parramatta,
Greater Sydney,
which includes the Central Coast, will not have fans attending.
closed doors.
But matches in Newcastle can have 50% capacity.
And of course, what's the latest on Queensland?
I'm not 100%
Would it
sure.
still be... because I don't think anyone's heard what the plan is in Queensland.
No.
And we won't know what's going on in Melbourne until they actually play another home game.
Well, that's
At
true.
Amy Park.
Yes.
But apart from those...
I think last time I heard with Queensland, it's going to be still 100%.
100% capacity
I think-
after the 3-day snap lockdown
I
they've
think
put in.
so. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I believe. We'll just have to wait and see before the Broncos take on the Sharks.
That would be a big thing, I would have to say. So, this...
And also, quickly, with the level 4 thing means that the Sharks are playing, obviously, Brisbane, and Brisbane had to fly in on game day, fly out game day.
Yeah, fly in, fly out.
Yeah.
Out the chartered flights. So anyway, starting off this really it's a throwback to early March and to the Project Apollo restart. But we have the Sydney Roosters and the Melbourne Storm first up from the Steel City of Newcastle.
Yes. See, the Roosters, before the Sydney lockdown, they decided to move the game to McDonald Jones Stadium in case of a lockdown, and weren't they correct?
Oh, they definitely were.
And mind you, before I go through a team list, I am personally attending this match as a spectator. I was lucky enough to be part of got on the ticket website quick enough and got a ticket to go at 50% capacity. So, unlike for my co-host Connor, will be working at the match. So, one gets to witness the game.
Money's money.
One gets to work and earns money.
Yeah, money is money.
Yeah.
I saw the opportunity through work and I was like, I'm jumping in before anyone else can.
Yeah.
Now, anyway, getting back on topic here, it is expected that Christian Welch and I believe Felice Kafusi will both play for the Storm as they take their places in the 4-pack. No Nelson Asofa Solomona, but that is offset by the return of Jesse Bromwich, who will start in the front row. Back lines 1 to 7 as it stands. The bench, and I'm pretty sure that's the same as it was, but I think no Harry Grant, so Aaron Booth comes into the side alongside Tui Kamakamefa, Chris Lewis, and Aaron Penne. Tepai Maroa is actually included on an extended reserves bench for Craig Bellamy's side, having just signed back from rugby union.
Yes, that is the case. As for the Bondi boys, Tedesco...
I honestly thought you were going to say Team Lockdown.
No, I wouldn't say that. As for the Bondi boys, Tedesco is backing up from State of Origin, and as well as Angus Crichton, so they are named. Pretty much the backline is unchanged. Lachlan Land and Sam Walker are the halves combination, so that means Joseph Sawali is back into the extended bench. Tupanua is back with Fletcher Baker going back to the bench. And that's pretty much all she wrote there for the team list. And it's just an interesting stat. The Roosters have won the past They've won the past 4 or 5 games at McDonald Jones Stadium.
But
Being the most
the
recent
more worrying statistic that I actually looked up this morning, since round 20 last year, they have gone 0-7 against a top 4 contender. So that includes the Rabbitohs, that includes the Panthers, the Eels, and, of course, worryingly, it includes the Melbourne Storm.
Oh, yes. It's going to be interesting to see if they can turn that around.
Well, it definitely
this season.
Will be, because first of all, there's going to be questions about the strength of the forward pack that Melbourne will feel, because no one knows if Welch and Kafusi are going to be playing. We assume that Munster and Addo Carr will still play.
Yeah.
Of course, Dale Finucane will play for Melbourne because he didn't play at all in Game 2. As for the Roosters, I think it'll be interesting to see how Sam Walker responds after 2 weeks managing his back problem that he's developed after that win on the Gold Coast.
Yeah. Look, I can't English at the moment. The Roosters are all but full strength for what they have got.
I mean, considering what have they gone? Brett Morris retired, Jake Friend retired, Boyd Cordner retired, Drew Hutchinson's still in the hospital with broken.
Is he still in hospital?
I don't know. That's just the last I heard. Luke Keary, season-ending injury, and Lindsay Collins, season-ending injury, while Victor Radley continues to dine out with the NRL Integrity Unit. Am I wrong? Are you going to correct me there?
No, but that is correct. Time up the Integrity Unit.
Maybe we should open with that. Never mind. Anyway.
But they can't at the moment because they're in lockdown, so you can't. So if he does,
unless it's virtual.
True.
That would probably be sad though. Just virtual diving in with the NRL Integrity Unit. What the hell are we talking about? We're not talking rugby league here. Well, we are, but we're not talking what we meant to be talking about.
Yeah, so they're pretty much a full strength side of what they have at the moment, and coming against the Storm, it's a good time to have that pretty much full strength side at the moment. So yeah, it's gonna be a classic match.
It'll definitely be interesting to see how things pan out, to say the least. What worries me is, I think, apart from the Storm's left edge, I think Sam Walker's coming back into this game with not that much match fitness available to him.
True.
Because I think that's what they'll be looking at. So I'm looking at the Roosters' right edge, and I'm thinking, oh, all right, so you got the reigning premiers, currently sitting top of the table, and you're going to bring in your boom rookie halfback. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's a good player.
Oh, he is.
But match fitness will be a bit of a concern for me.
A little bit, yes. But will it pay off? We'll just have to wait and see.
And also, Jared Waerea-Hargreaves. That'll also be the big thing as well.
And he's been playing full 80 minutes as of the last few recent weeks. So he'll probably no doubt back that up again. Although, coming against the Storm, it could be a more physical game than anything. So he may have a breather here or there.
And it also depends on James Tedesco as well, because I think he could be the real danger that Melbourne have to deal with. And they said, Trent Robinson did talk during the week that they might be looking to manage his workload in between. So what does that really mean?
I'd say that he'll play for at least 60, 70 minutes and come off early.
Because I'm thinking...
That's how I understand
sneakily, I think they'll probably include Joseph Suwali in there somewhere if they didn't think Tedesco would get through the full 80.
But Suwali's named on the extended bench, so don't
for the moment, you only have to have 19 players up until an hour before kickoff. Oh, well, 18, or 20, I should say, because of the 18th man. So...
Well, it's been proven before that come the last hour, like, for example, the last Roosters game, I think Sam Walker or Lachlan Lamb was ruled out with an hour to go. So Mahoney went to 5-8 and then Suwali went into centres with an hour to kick off.
So
because of an injury,
that could be the case.
Being ruled out.
So if I was Melbourne, my main goal would be to try and stick it towards Jared Waerea-Hargreaves, try and force him into giving away a penalty or even placing him on report, because the loading only means he will probably be dining out virtually with the judiciary at some point.
With his old mate Victor Radley.
Not the same thing. I mean...
yeah, I know.
But still. And also, I would probably be working the Roosters' right edge over the most. I would really be testing Sam Walker's match fitness.
I'd say that's what they'll be doing in the Melbourne Storm.
And I would definitely think For me, I would definitely think Melbourne win 1-12. I think this will be a tight contest, but I think the Storm will have the artillery to stand out on top.
It's going to be a blockbuster match, and what a way to kick off
Round 16.
Round 16 and back to the regular football after a week off. So I'd say the Roosters will win by 6. Roosters win by 6. Even though they're the outside favourites.
Well, of course they are. They're not the same side they were maybe 3 years ago, but they're still a contender.
Yeah, easy.
Now, first action, and on Friday night sees the New Zealand Warriors play the St. George Illawarra Dragons.
And the first match behind closed doors.
Yes.
This season.
Yes, that is official as it is. So, and there's been a couple of changes for St. George Illawarra. Matt Duffy returns at fullback, so Cody Ramsey is pushed back to the wing. Jack Bird is back in the centres. Jared Beale pushed out to the right wing with Josh Kerr elevated back into the starting second row position. And Paul Vaughan also back in the starting lineup, along with Josh Maguire and Tyrell Fui-Maono, a name you haven't heard for a while since Magic Round.
Well, even with Josh Maguire as well, so...
And with that, Jordan Pereira drops back to the reserves with the return of Matt Duffy.
Well, quickly also Ravalawa was there, so that's why.
And of course,
Michaeli
Of course, with the exit of Michaeli Ravawala, Tyrell Sloan, and Powasa Farmasili.
For the New Zealand Warriors, we have a number of changes. So, at fullback, we have Roger Tuivasa Sheck.
With no Reece Walsh.
The winners are new recruit Dallin Watini-Zelezniak and Edward Kosi, with the centres being Adam Pompey and Marcelo Montoya. The halves, Cody Nikorima and Chad Townsend, who has joined mid-season from the Cronulla Sharks and before he goes up to North Queensland. Lockie got Tohu Harris. Then in the second row you got Elise Katoa and Ben Murdoch-Masila. And up front you got Adafaniwa, Blake Wade, Egan and Kane Evans. On the bench you got Jazz Tavanga, Leeson Armour, Bunty Afo and Bailey Sirenan, with the reserves being Rocco Berry, Jack Murchie, Otu Kolo and Sean O'Sullivan.
And that's in spite of the fact that Ewan Aiken
and Josh Curran
and Jackson Frey have all been ordered to go into isolation after there were close contacts on a Virgin flight, right? Because a crew member tested positive to the thing we're not allowed to talk about, lest we get slapped with some government warnings for promoting misinformation about things we're not allowed to talk about. That might get us censored. That might sound like a gob through all, but come on, by now you should know what we're really talking about.
Yeah.
This code's not that hard to understand.
No. But the biggest two names is the two mid-season signings, Chad Townsend and Dallin Watini-Zelezniak. On top of a new recruit heading back home, Sean Johnson is heading back to the Warriors.
That is big news for the Warriors. I would say the return of Sean Johnson should really get the Warriors fans excited.
Yes. Who will he partner in the halves? Would he partner Nikorima or Shana Harris?
There's a lot of questions.
We have to wait and see.
There's honestly a lot of questions around Cody Nikorima. I think there's talk he might be on his way back to Queensland.
I have heard that.
There's talk that Harris Tavita might be either fallen out of favour with Nathan Brown as a halfback, might be looking to use him as a dummy half option, especially with the stocks being only Wade Egan and Jazz Tavanga with the departure of Carl Lawson.
Yes. But how will Watini-Zelezniak go? He was clearly out of favour at the Dogs.
I think he'll definitely have a point to prove.
Yeah.
And I think he'll feel good when he returns home to New Zealand as well. I think that'll probably...
Yeah.
But other than that, what you're getting another big meter eater. So that's really someone who can compensate for the loss of Ken Mamalo.
True.
After they lost him to the Tigers mid-year.
Yes. And when Reece Walsh comes back... You got two of our checkers got speed, was Watini-Zelezniak and Walsh. Now, I believe until two.
You're not going to have Reece Walsh come off the bench. That's apparent.
No, but you probably put two of us check on the wing instead of Kosi and then put Walsh at fullback.
That's probably the only way they can do it.
But
Unless they want to keep Roger at fullback, then Walsh just simply goes into the halves.
true. But I believe that when Walsh comes back, Chuvashek, Martinez, Lesniak, and Walsh will form a nice little combination.
So you think they'll form the back three nicely?
I reckon so. And Tad Townsend, who will be playing for his second club. Well, when he goes to the Cowboys, it'll be his third club in 2 years.
Crazy how things work. Now, with the Dragons, still no Zach Lomax. It would seem to the point that they are trying to hold him back for more important games.
I'd say I might be holding him back to get a better. I believe after the bye in round 17,
He'll be right
back,
to go against Manly.
and then in round 18 have a good run home. That's what I believe. That's what they're doing. We're almost full of strength. We've got Josh McGuire back and we've got Philly Mayano back. And then with Jack DeBellin being back in the side, it means obviously Josh McGuire's on the bench, but he's a good force to come off the bench.
Well, I think this would probably be the first time the Dragons forward pack has been full strength all year.
Pretty much, yeah.
I think
I agree.
Anthony Griffin, I think, has practically got probably his preferred bench right now, right here.
McGuire, Burns, Alvaro, yeah. I can agree with you on that one. When Lomax comes in,
Then the Dragons, I would think Willie Army's the first to drop out.
Yeah, and you have the Willie Army. I have the Lomax
And Jack Bird.
in the centres, and then when Ravalawa comes back, B will be out, and then I had the Lomax Ravalawa combination going again.
Yeah.
So it was just maybe 1 or 2 players away from full strength, but my God, we're looking good.
The main thing for the Warriors, they need to look at their right edge because they need to look at Corey Norman. Now, I know Corey Norman's not going to be staying at St George Illawarra beyond
Always
2021.
been told that as of the Queen's birthday match.
But now that Duffy's back, he's now got options if he makes a break. He could either go to Tarek Sims on his left, on his outside, try and get it out for Bird and out for Ramsey, or he could go back on the inside, and he's got the speed of Matt Duff after waiting for him.
Yeah.
So Norman's the danger game.
And with the rate that Sims has had in Origin, like on Sunday, you can't go past that he's in good form at the moment. So
No, I don't think he can.
it's a, you could say in a way a tough one to choose. Like you got Martinez, Lesniak, and Townsend coming in. Townsend will change the game for the Warriors, I believe.
Well, he's probably the best playmaker the Warriors have had in the last couple of years.
Since Sean Johnson's departure.
Well, I think, that and the fact that Blake Green wasn't as effective as he was when he first joined in 2018.
That's true. So I believe the Dragons will be trying to shut down Chad Townsend.
Well, I think Tarek Sims will be
They
definitely...
know how well Townsend can play, especially in the recent game when they played against the Sharks and won the field goal and Golden Point.
I think that will be Tarek Sims' mission. Shut down Chad Townsend at all costs.
Yeah. And also for the Warriors, we're trying to shut down Matt Duffy and Ramsey.
Well, Ramsey's suspect under the high ball, and Duffy's got questions of his defence. So, if you can challenge them under the high ball,
yeah,
then the Warriors get field position. But
yes.
I think just both on the size of the packs and the options in the backs, I can't go past the Dragons 1-12.
Yeah, that like the players coming off that bench, like with McGuire back, he's a big inclusion.
If he doesn't, again finds himself on a one-on-one, having a sit down with the integrity unit just on a night out.
Yeah,
virtually, of course.
No, but I'm gonna go with the Dragons. The squad's too past to say no to. Like we're pretty much all back full strength, so Dragons in a 13 plus margin, win by 14 for the Dragons.
Well, this is probably a game the Dragons do need to win if you want a quick fire for or competition points. The win and then you buy in round 17.
Yes, that's true.
So you definitely
so
want...
kind of like had a week off because of rep round, play a game, then have another week off.
Yeah,
I mean, it might work.
That seems to be the way of it. Now, speaking of blockbusters, the Golden Battle of the West. The Penrith Panthers hosting the Parramatta Eels. Micah Sevo back in the lineup for Brett Arthur's side. So Sean Russell drops back to the reserves. Junior Paulo, of course, will back up for the Eels, whilst Oregon Kafusi and Bryce Cartwright rejoin the bench at the expense of Nathaniel Roach with injury and Keegan Hipgrave.
Nathaniel Roach injured yet again. A hard luck by. Okay, there's been match changes at the Panthers. So, you got Charlie Staines at fullback with Brian Toto and the record Brent Naden back onto the wings with Stephen Crichton and Tyrone May in the centres. Matt Burton and Jerome Luai are the halves combination as Nathan Cleary will miss a month of football after sustaining a shoulder injury in game number 2, where he played 70 minutes with the injury, mind you. In the lock, you got Isaiah Yeo and Kickout and Kurt Capewell in the second row with Moses Leoto, Coruscant and Fisher House up front. And on the bench, you got Mitch Kenny, Scott Sorensen, Spencer Linu and Liam Martin, with Martin backing up from Origin, as well as Yeo and Capewell. And on the reserves, Isaac Targo, Jermaine Salmon, Matt Eisenhuth, and Taylor May, which I would presume is the brother of Tyrone May. I could be wrong. So Cleary out. And
that's big.
And Dylan Edwards is also out with an injury.
That is big, losing Nathan Cleary, especially they're talking up to a month of football. So that's obviously they go into the bye, but it's this game, round 18, round 19, and maybe even the grand final rematch with the Storm in Melbourne.
Yes, and what makes this even more chaotic is that it's a battle at the West, but with no crowd.
So the home crowd advantage for Penrith now goes out the window.
They can still have home ground advantage, but without the home
without the crowd, without the fans that are, trying to bring the Panthers home, it makes it harder to get up. Also, Ivan Cleary has just done a feat of insanity by naming Tyrone May in the centres, because we all know how well that went in the grand final against the Storm.
True. And how well Brent Naden go, considering he hasn't played football all year.
Well, reserve grade.
Well, reserve grade, but yes. But
not been in Ivan Cleary's top 17.
Because of what happened earlier in the year, he got out for 4 weeks.
Because of the cocaine he took in the grand final. So that's going to be a big thing for him as well. Now, my question is, which side of the field do you think Tyrone May would be defending? Would it be the left side, or would it be the right side, and Crichton plays on the left?
I'd say Crichton will play on the left.
Because that's where Parramatta really need to focus their attack. Now, we know the Eels' left side attack is very strong. You got Gutherson, Sevo, Papali'i, and Mitchell Moses all on that side. But whichever side of the field Tyrone May is playing, that's where the Eels need to go. If it's on the left, of course, then they've got all those strike weapons there. If it's on the right, then let Dylan Brown and try and get at Opacek and Hayes Dunster some room to move.
Yeah.
That's where Parramatta need to go. And not having Nathan Cleary there, that could really change the complexity of this game.
Yeah, with Nathan Cleary not being there, I'd say it's massive.
The playing field, I would have to say, is pretty much even at this point. And if it's even, then the Eels have a sniff.
I don't think it'll be even. I'll say the Eels will get their noses in front. Because without Cleary, Penrith seem to not collapse, but they don't perform as well. You just have to look when Cleary's out, before game 1 and after game 1, when the Panthers lost to Tigers and Sharks respectively. Yes, they almost won against the Sharks, but without and they had more of the players there, but without Cleary, they were nowhere.
I think this is the opportunity for Jerome Luai to try and stand up on his own 2 feet, because in the past, privately, I might have said Jerome Luai is the real maestro of the Panthers' attack. But considering the stat that half of the Penrith tries they've scored this year have come through Nathan Cleary, that is a lot of pressure. And I think Parramatta will be thriving on the fact that they can try and take Penrith now and then get the home crowd advantage at the end of the year if they are allowed crowds, which I think they will. So finals they should be. I think whichever side they attack Tyrone May, and match it, and the way Junior Paulo's been playing, I think he will easily lead Parramatta to a 1-12 victory.
Oh, Matt Burton, he's been playing good this year too. Like whether it's been in centres, in the halves, or wherever. I believe the Parramatta will win in a, I'm going to say 13 plus victory.
So you think the Eels are going to run over the top of the Panthers?
13 plus to win precisely by 13.
All right. Big call there.
Yeah.
Now, Bundaberg Rum's Super Saturday triple header, starting off with the Canterbury Bulldogs and the Manly Sea Eagles at Bankwest Stadium. Of course, Tom Trbojevic will back up from Origin 2, who at fullback, as will Daly Cherry Evans, and of course, with no Jake Trbojevic, Sean Kepi will be elevated to start at lock forward with Kurt DeLewis, the fresh man on the bench for Des Hasler's side, unchanged since Manly's last game.
For the Dogs, there are some changes. So Nick Meaney is at fullback with Tui Katoa and Corey Allen on the wings, and Will Hopewade and debutant Falakiko Manu in the centres. Cole Flanagan gets a recall.
Seemed like an eternity since he's last played.
Yes. He's been part of Jake Averillo, who's been in great form at the moment in the halves. At lock, you got Jackson forward in second row, filled with Jackson Torpenny, and Matt Dorey with the up front, Jack Hetherington, Jeremy Marshall-King, and Luke Thompson. On the bench, you got Bailey
Biondi-Odo.
Yep, who will make his NRL debut. Joe Stimson, Ava Seaman and Chris Patola, who will, I think, also make his NRL debut.
Well, this handing out free debuts would not be Trent Barrett's first choice.
Well, they've got Aaron Shope,
Brandon Wakeham. Well, Adam Elliott and Chris Smith were already ruled out through injury.
Yeah.
But Corey Waddell, Aaron Shope, Brandon Wakeham, Dylan Napa,
and Nick Kotrick.
All ordered to isolate because of
they're naughty
breaching the Project Apollo protocols.
Typical.
Hey, we're not the only ones here.
I know.
May I remind you about last year and the fact of Josh Dugan as well?
Yes, I know. But the Bulldogs players did do the right thing and did scare
Some
into
of
the
them.
venue.
Some of them did the right thing. Out of the 5 of them, only 3 actually did choose to check in.
I thought all 5 of them did.
No, apparently only 3 of them did.
Was it the first 3 that got busted?
I'm not sure.
Anyway, it's the first big breach since Project Apollo came in last year and.
Well, the first major breach this year since it's been reintroduced.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I'm not going to give him too much shit for it. Although I might give you shit later on. No, I won't.
The concrete boots are still outside.
Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, with no Dylan Zelsniak for the Dogs, which we knew he was going to be out of favour of. Like, because he was injured, but he wasn't getting game. Well, he was, but Cole Flanagan.
It's definitely going to be interesting to see how he does on his return.
Yes, it feels like an eternity ago that since last played for the Dogs in the top level. I think it was round 9, I believe, or earlier.
I think it might have been.
Yeah,
but
I know it was at Strata Jubilee over that he last played.
The major problem is Manly. Well, it's not just a major problem, but
it's Tommy Turbo, that's the problem.
The thing is, with no Jake Trbojevic, what Manly lose is that strong ball-playing link in the middle of the field that can feed out to Cherry Evans, that can feed out to Kieran Foran, that then Tom Trbojevic can get on it and then cause havoc wherever he chooses to go, outside to his backs or inside back onto the halves, or even for his brother.
Well, they managed to win against the Titans and put 48 points on the come back from 48 points against
from 24-8 down to basically
without Jake Trbojevic last time out, so they can do it.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say it's gonna be not pretty for the Dogs.
Well, even though Manly lose their go-to link man in the middle of the field, Tom Trbojevic could really just bust open this game.
And who has the support there? Ruben Garrick, who's been playing really good. Jason Saab as well. And then Cherry Evans, how will he back?
Cherry Evans will have a point once again to prove, because after Queensland got humiliated in game 1, he came back for Manly at 4 Pines Park against the Cowboys, and after conceding 2 tries early, they basically poured 50 on since.
That is true.
So I am concerned we are about to see a repeat here, and I'm afraid the Dogs are going to cop most of the brunt of the blow.
Most of the brunt, or you mean all of it?
All of it. All of that brunt.
Yeah.
I think forward pack we could probably match it, but I think even with Flanagan back, we'll still probably be struggling to match it with execution and attack.
Yeah.
And 3 debutants is also a lot of pressure again, and a Manly side that is quite clearly a contender.
What choice did Trent Barrett have, though?
Well, he didn't have a choice.
Debutants, exactly. So,
had it not been the case, he would have had 5 players he could call upon, but just it's the way the cookie crumbles, I guess.
I'm going to say the Dogs absolutely struggle.
It's going to be a Manly 13 plus.
I'm going to say it's going to be Manly more than 13 plus, obviously. They're going to win by 40. Manly will win by 40. I'm going to say 42. Manly to win by 42 points. Sorry, Connor. But I'm heavily against the Dogs.
Isn't everyone at the moment?
Well, even the favourites are Manly, $1.07 to 9.
Anyway, moving on from that, we have got the Canberra Raiders at home to the Gold Coast Titans. AJ Brimson back in the side. For Justin Holbrook, so Jaden Campbell drops out. Corey Thompson also recalled into the side, with Greg Marjo dropping out. Tino Farsua Malawi takes his place in the front row, as does David Fafita in the second row. Pushing Sam Stone and Mitch Rain also out of the sides back into the reserves. Moaki Fotuweka also dropping back to the bench.
With the grade machine, Bailey Simonson is still at fullback with Jordan Rapana and Semi Velame on the wings. A big name is back in the centre. Jared Croker returns from his injury alongside Sebastian Chris at the other centre. Whiten and Williams are the halves with Ryan Sutton at lock and Corey Harry-Onaira and Elliot Whitehead in the second row. Josh Papali'i, Josh Hodson and Nums Lewis up front with Tom Sterling, Emre Gula, Asia Soliola and Joe Tarpany off the bench with Matt Timoka, Hudson Young, Matt Foley and Ryan James the reserves. The big in, Jared Croker, for sure.
For the Canberra Raiders, I think it is a big in to have your first choice goal kicker and your captain back.
Co-captain. No, sorry, it is proper captain now. I forgot about that. How well will he go? His first game since, I don't know, very early on the season.
Sometime.
But will it help lift the green machine and turn their fortunes around? Because yes, they were getting out to least, but then they'll go downhill and lose on the second half.
The major problem is with the Canberra Raiders, they've once again suffered the problem of the second half fade out that played the 17-18 side.
But with Jared Croker back, will that turn around?
It's honestly hard to say, but at the same time, the Gold Coast Titans defence has not been up to scratch.
That is true.
Both of these sides can attack, but whereas one side has had a problem with fade-outs, the other side has had defensive collapses.
Just look at Manly. Well, sorry, look at the Titans-Manly game.
Exactly. The Titans lost that second half without even scoring a try. 24-8, and then the Manly ran out 56-24 victors.
Yeah, they were scoreless. That's what a defense collapsed. So it'll be better to see who can keep the full 80-minute game. Really,
it also comes down to the head-to-head, and I think it does favour the Canberra Raiders, and especially in front of a home crowd. Where they did.
Well, what is the home crowd? Is it 100% capacity or 50%?
Well, I imagine the ACT is not exact. Well, there's no lockdown in the ACT, so I'd imagine they still would.
Is there? Because wasn't a politician caught?
I
thought that.
I think
I know we're going off record, but I believe a politician got caught. So I think all.
I believe that was Deputy Prime Minister Barnaby Joyce, and I think that only resulted in about a couple of $100 fine.
Yeah, but I thought all of Canberra had to go in lockdown for it. Or was it just Parliament
No,
House?
I don't. No. The ACT's fine. I think they're still got the travel bubble with New Zealand open at the moment. So I think Canberra would still be 100% capacity.
Okay. So so the full crowd behind them. Should
This
favour
this
them.
should be a Raiders. I would think 1-12 victory would be a good place to start.
Yeah, you had to start somewhere after, like what you said, fading out in the second half.
Against St George of the Warrior, which they were in control of.
Yes, but I was happy about the end result of that. But the Titans, like you said, they absolutely collapsed. They collapsed massively in defence.
We both had the Titans in our top 8 at the start of the year. Right now, they're in a precarious position, as are the Raiders.
Well, both these teams are caught in that logjam for the top 8. So, look, I'm going to say Raiders to win by 16.
So we got a 1-12 and then a 13 plus.
Yeah.
Now, to wrap up the Super Saturday, it's the Newcastle Knights playing host to the North Queensland Cowboys. Valentine Holmes will back up for the Cowboys at fullback, and I don't think there's been any other changes for the North Queensland side. I think they are...
Actually, yes, there is.
Yes, there is one major change that despite the fact that this side will run out 1-17, there will be no Todd Payton.
Yes.
He's been forced to isolate after being confirmed that he was a close contact of a couple of positive cases up in Townsville. So, Dean Young will technically be the caretaker coach for the next 2 weeks.
For the second time in his coaching career. And this one will more likely be shorter than his previous one.
Just until Todd Payton's given the all clear by Queensland Health.
Yes. Anyway, for the Knights, you have Kalen Ponga back at fullback with Harmel Hunt and Dominic Young on the wings with Kurt Mann and Nari Tuala in the centres. Jake Clifford and Mitchell Pearce are the hardest combination yet again. So also Sue start to lock, which I believe is a change from last time out. With Mitch Barnett, Lockie Fitzgibbon also in the second row. Jacob Safidi, Jaden Brayley and Daniel Safidi are up front. Watson, Clemmer, Kin and Jones are all off the bench with Jack Johns, Crossland, Sasagi and Momo Isa off the reserves list with Tex Hoy out as Kalen Ponga returns. So, they're nearly... Arguably, this has been the full-strength side for a long, long time. They're just waiting for Edric Lee to come back.
Not just Edric Lee, but you're forgetting Tyson Frizzell as well.
Him too. Sorry. 2 more players, then are pretty much full strength.
As for the Cowboys, they're practically running out pretty much full strength there.
They are. And the rate that the Cowboys have been playing, over... Between the two sides, the Cowboys have had the better record recently.
The Knights were able to fight out a strong win against the Warriors in very trying conditions. This will be a much flatter track, and they got to match it up against Jason Taumalolo.
Yeah. Do you think they can?
Well, I think the forward battle between himself and Daniel Saifidi will definitely be a very interesting clash to watch. And also, this will be the first time Jake Clifford actually goes up against his former side.
That is true. So, Clifford will be looking to get revenge and say, get this into you, this is what I'm capable of. But you wouldn't give me many opportunities, so I came to here and look what I can do. But, on the other hand, Scott Drinkwater has been playing exceptional football this season.
Oh, he definitely has. I think he's been one of the Cowboys' best.
If not the best. So, I'd say the Cowboys will get the upper hand. But, who knows?
Yeah, it's a definite who knows.
But
this is really a flip of a coin game.
It truly is. It can go either way.
It definitely can, but I think we also can't discount the influence Kalen Ponga might have, the impact he could have, the same way and fashion Tom Trbojevic has a positive effect on Manly. So I think this will go down to a tight contest, as I think the Cowboys will put up a very stubborn fight. But in front of a capped home crowd and the fact that their best fullback is back in the side, I can't go past a Newcastle victory 1-12.
No. I'll kind of complete opposite. Cowboys will be the better side. Even with, yes, I know Ponder's back and they are pretty much a full strength at the moment without Frizzell and Edric Lee. Cowboys win 1-12 and by 12.
Well, we'll just see how that goes. Now, for your Sunday action, it's the Brisbane Broncos up against the Cronulla Sharks. The Sharks remain 1-17 at this point, with Sione Katoa added to the reserves. It's actually still hard to believe Sione Katoa has not yet returned to the Sharks starting lineup.
No, it's hard to believe that. But...
I mean, Connor Tracy is still out there on the wing. He's not a winger by first choice.
He's been playing really well.
He's the Sharks Mr. Fix-It, that he's just found his place in the side, and he's like... Everyone thought Katoa and Mulitalo would be the first choice wingers going forward, first under Josh Hannay, and then under Craig Fitzgibbon when the time comes. But he's just hanging on.
Yeah, no, it's good to see. Before we get into it more, I'm going to go through the Brisbane Broncos lineup, which, well, there are...
Kevy swung the axe again. Surprise, surprise.
Yes, surprise, even after a weekend off. So, Tessie New is back.
I think he was already at fullback.
Anyway,
from the last time.
He's back. He's at fullback with Osaka and Corey Oates on the wing with Kasoni Staggs. Kasoni Staggs is back. Oh no, that's a fact. And Herbie Farm with other centres. New halves combination of Tyson Gamble and Brody Cross are yet another.
Can we get a fact check? Is that the 57th or the 58th time the Broncos have changed their halves combination in the last 3 years?
Or would you go triple digits and say 100th time?
Yes, actually, I'm going to go away and do some research. And next week, I'm going to present the entire list from 2018 till now of all the halves combinations that the Broncos have used.
No doubt there'll be another new one next week. No doubt.
There's probably a high chance it will happen.
Yeah, anyway, Tom Flegler is at lock with Alex Glenn and TC Rabati up alongside Flegler with Lodge, Turpin and Haas up front. Corey Pakes, Hetherington, Palacia and Jesse Arthurs are the bench with Jordan Recchi, Reece Kennedy, David Mead and Anthony Milford amongst the reserves. So, the outs are John Asiata, Carmichael Hunt, Silvan Cobbo, Tavita Pangai Jr. and Xavier Coates.
Yeah, and of course they had 4 injuries in a freak training accident, which I think included Brendan Picara, amongst others. I actually have...
Carmichael Hunt is out with a calf injury after being picked up at training. John Asiata is out with a neck injury, which hopefully is not too bad. Tavita Pangai is suspended. Is that a surprise? Pangai being suspended.
Yeah, I'm just going to have to cut you off there because we do have a media release from the NRL regarding the Canterbury Bulldogs. The NRL has officially issued the Dogs with a breach notice for failing to take all reasonable measures as to ensure the players complied with the Project Apollo protocols, and the notice proposes that the club is fined $50,000.
Right.
Yep, it
To
allegedly...
be paid in full or was half suspended?
It doesn't say. They've also issued breach notices to the 5 players involved. That includes Dylan Napa, Brandon Wakeham, Corey Waddell, Sione Katoa, not Nick Cottridge, and Aaron Shoep, who have been fined from a range of $250 to upwards of $5,000.
With $5,000 being Dylan Napa.
Yeah.
Just quickly on that, why not Nick Cottridge?
I think he's just been ruled out with injury. I don't think he...
But he got caught up in that thing.
I don't think he did. I
thought he did.
Well, we'll get back to you on that, but that's just the latest as of about 25 to 6. is when the NRL issued the breach notice of fining the club up to $50,000.
At least we're giving you more news closer to the date than what it was last time out when we announced the Combined Nations All-Star team.
Yeah, I still might have got that actually wrong. I just might have misread something, so just
bear with us.
Anything I said, that could be taken with a grain of salt, and I did put that disclaimer there. Now, back to the Broncos.
And the Sharks. Well, one half's future is sorted, as in Sean Johnson, so he can play the rest of the season not worrying about his future.
No, of course not.
On the other hand, Matt Moylan is still worrying about his future.
It would seem so.
But he's been playing like it's not worrying him.
Yeah.
So, that's... Well, it's not going to affect them, you could say. Like, it's already shown that even when Johnson's future was uncertain, it didn't really faze him. So, it will continue to be that. And so with Moylan, like, he knows he's off contract. But yeah.
Honestly, the way the Sharks are playing at the moment, I think highly unlikely, once again, they're actually going to play the finals this year.
You reckon?
The way they're going, I can't see anyone else breaking into the top 8. I think the Sharks will actually, by a large stretch of the imagination, they'll once again make the finals.
It's still I know there's not that many weeks left.
We're 2 months out. We're 2 months out from the finals, but I think the Sharks, they're on a roll. They are really on a roll at the moment.
It's still too hard to call for me if the Sharks are going to make the finals or not. I know it's 2 months out, but ask me when it's like a month out, and then I might have a more definite answer. But that backlog, that log jam is going to be so hard.
So what have we got? We got Canberra Raiders, the Warriors, the Cowboys.
Just give me a second. I'll even bring up the log jam. So, you could you include the Dragons on that in seventh?
I would include St. George Illawarra.
So, 7th down to 14th, you've got the Dragons, the Sharks, the Cowboys, the Raiders, the Warriors, the Knights, the Titans, and the Tigers. They're the clubs that are in that log jam.
Oh, hang on. We also got an update because it is about the Sharks. It's also going to be involving Josh Dugan. He has been issued a breach notice, fined $25,000 on his own.
So he's the biggest one across himself and the Dogs.
He has 5 days to respond to this breach notice before it is finally determined, as per the media release by the NRL, just broken now, or actually 3 minutes ago, but when I refresh the page, it's now. Well, so we got 5 players from Canterbury to a combined ranging from as little as $250 up to $5,000. That's 5 Dylan Narpers that Josh Dugan has just pulled, with the $5,000 being multiplied 5 times.
Yes. Which is that fair though? 25 grand for one player compared to Napo, who's got 5 grand. The NRL obviously have their reasons why
they've looked at Project Apollo protocols and they've probably weighed this up accordingly. I mean, the club, you got to remember, Napa's getting fined $5,000 on his own. The club he's playing for is getting fined 10 times the amount.
Yeah, so...
And Dugan is getting fined $25,000, which is half of what the Dogs are getting fined on their own. So
yeah, so who knows? Yeah, but that
level 3, and of course it is because of breach of level 3 plus biosecurity protocol. And well, I think the difference is he didn't comply with what the Sharks said, and I think there might be some difference.
Yeah, that's true. There'll also be some differences between the Dogs' breach and Dugan's breach. But yeah, that logjam, back to our preview. Dragons are on 14 points. Sharks are on 14 points. Cowboys are on 14 points. Raiders, Warriors, Knights are all on 12 points. And Titans and Tigers are on 10 points.
And it's only 24 that it takes, so it's...
It's so tight and it's not funny.
But one team I can guarantee that won't be there, it's the Broncos.
And what about your club?
We won't be there either. The Tigers as well. The Titans, they might get lucky.
So you're saying anyone from 7th down to 13th? Where you say the Titans? Because you're saying the Tigers won't make it?
No.
So 7th to 13th, you reckon can have a chance?
They're probably the most likely ones, but other than that, I would probably think maybe top 5, top 6 is settled. It's just all about positioning.
Yeah.
In relation to this game, look, even with the return of Katoni Staggs, which is a big boost.
Yes, a very, very big boost for the Broncos.
You're coming up against the Cronulla side in form.
Yeah.
And who's only had to rely on not having to chop and change their halves on a weekly basis. And given that the fact that all it takes is one try to be scored against the Broncos and they fall like a house of cards in a QRL selection room.
Yeah.
It's a Sharks 13+ win.
Easy.
Enough said. Sharks.
With the Broncos halves, it's more like a daily thing.
Oh, yeah. Chop and change daily, not weekly. It's chop and change daily.
They'll probably have a halves combination that's training one day, the next day it's changed again. Sharks going to win 13+ and probably win by, let's say, 34. It's going to be a big margin.
It will be big. And finally, from the 8th wonder of the world, for Sunday afternoon footy, the West Tigers against the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Of course, Latrell Mitchell and Damien Cook will back up from State of Origin, as it would have been a 1-week turnaround. Junior Totola has been ruled out for, I think, 1 to 2 months with an injury?
I believe so.
So Hame Sele has actually been elevated into the front row. Jai Arrow will also back up for the Bunnies in the second row alongside Cameron Murray at lock forward. Benji Marshall is back on deck after that 1 week off with his second child, was it? The birth of his second child.
Yeah.
Joining Liam Knight, Tom Burgess, and of course Jacob Host. Josh Mansour and Patrick Mago, alongside Jaden Sewer, have been included on an extended reserves bench, I should say.
And for the home side, Dane Laurie remains at fullback, Cameron Milo on the wing, and Nofaluma also, James Roberts in centres, alongside Adam Dewey, who makes his return. Could be a difference. And Brian Brooks at a halves yet again. Alex Seyfarth is at lock with Luke Gunn and Luciano Leilua alongside him. Tarmel, Little, and Twell are up front. Oit Tukamano, Blore, Michele, and Offa and Gowie are on the bench with Michael Cheekham, Tom Amone, Paguga, and Simkin on the reserves. So, meaning that the only change that Maguire has made is Adam Dewey is back in place of Talau. Seyfarth is swapped with Offa and Gowie, and Michele returns.
And this is coming from a Tiger side that I'm pretty sure their last outing was a 50-point annihilation at the hands of the Melbourne Storm.
66-16.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I don't know where the Tigers go. The break would have helped, but I probably think at the same time it probably didn't do much.
No. Want to hear a positive though? It's Mbife's 150th NRL game.
Meh.
Will that spur him on a bit?
Probably not.
Well, they could win from Tommy Rodonicus.
No,
I don't remember
twice.
him, so if that couldn't spur him on, I don't think 150th...
Look, South Sydney are, even though they're missing Totola, they are still a well-rounded and well-oiled machine, and I think Latrell Mitchell will carry on with the form he's shown in both Origin 1 and Origin 2, and I think he's going to have a field day at Leichhardt Oval. It's the Bunnies 13+. I can't say anything more about the West Tigers, especially after that Sunshine Coast massacre.
Look, I completely agree. The Tigers are... There's no words left for them, to be honest. It's kind of like... They're getting to the stage of like we've got no words left for like what the Dogs have done.
The Broncos.
They're kind of getting into that group now. Yeah. Mitch will have a field day. Johnson will have a field day. And Walker will have a field day. Rabbitohs will win 13+, and probably more than likely by, I'm going to say 40 as well.
It's just the reality as it is.
Yep.
Well, that's all the State of Origin and NRL action for this part of the podcast. Don't forget to stay tuned as all the action from the Betfred Super League is up next. Next. What results has England got themselves in for? Warrington getting closer to the top 2. And of course, Conrad Hurrell's boxing debut that went horribly wrong. All of that up next. See you after the break.